Previously on Christmas in Maplewood, Katie's days at home have grown warmer, from reconnecting with Michael to rediscovering the traditions she once loved. But Maplewood has a way of revealing the truth slowly, one small moment at a time. In this episode, a star for the heart, a simple wooden star, and a memory tied to it, begins to shift everything Katie thought she knew. This is episode 3, A Star for the Heart. Katie woke up before her alarm, long before she needed to, wrapped in warmth she couldn't quite contain. Soft winter light poured through the curtains, casting pale gold across her comforter. The house was quiet, still wrapped in its early morning hush. But Katie couldn't lie still. Not today. She rolled onto her side, her gaze drifting immediately to the nightstand. The wooden box sat there, exactly where she'd left it. Close, present, waiting. Katie reached out and traced her fingers along the lid, her chest warming at the familiar feel of it. The letters inside felt alive again, like they'd been holding their breath for years, waiting for her to come home and remember what they meant. She lifted the lid. There they were, dozens of folded notes tied in a fading ribbon. She picked up the top one, the edges worn soft from her hands over the years. She unfolded it carefully, breath-catching, as her eyes skimmed the handwriting she knew so well. I don't know how to say this without sounding foolish, but the truth is, every time I think of my future, you're in it. Every version. Katie pressed the letter to her chest, eyes fluttering shut. That feeling she'd had last night. Standing beneath the lights, that almost kissed the certainty blooming inside her, it all surged again. She had been so young when the letters first came into her life, unsure and scared and overwhelmed by the depth of emotion she didn't know how to hold. But now, she knew. She felt it clearly. She didn't want to lose Michael again. A soft knock sounded at her door. Before she could answer, Emily cracked it open, hair messy, wearing mismatched socks. "You're up early," she said, narrowing her eyes suspiciously. Suspiciously early. Katie laughed, setting the letter down. "Good morning to you, too." Emily stepped inside, arms crossed dramatically. "Okay, I need details, and if you don't give me details, I will make them up aggressively and spread them to the family group chat." Katie groaned. "Please don't do that." Emily looked down and spotted the open wooden box. Her eyebrows shot up. "Oh, that's where you have been all morning? Back in your box?" Katie tried to hide her smile, but failed miserably. Last night was really nice. Uh-huh. Emily plopped down on the bed. And Katie picked up the letter again, fingers gliding over the ink. "And I forgot how much these meant to me. I stayed up reading them." Emily's expression softened. "Those letters always made you melt. I used to watch you sit on this bed and read them like they were scripture." "Well," Katie admitted, cheeks warming, "they were to me." Emily nudged her shoulder. "And Michael?" Katie couldn't stop the glow spreading across her face. He's different, in a good way. And last night, it just felt right. Like maybe I was wrong to walk away all those years ago." Emily's teasing faded into a sincere smile. "Then maybe you weren't wrong, Katie. Maybe you just weren't ready." Katie swallowed the lump in her throat. "Maybe." Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Slow, familiar, steady. Tom appeared next, leaning gently against the doorway. "Morning, sweetheart." His eyes crinkled warmly. "You look happy today." Katie laughed. "Why is everyone saying that?" His smile deepened. "Because it's true." He stepped inside, carefully lowering himself to sit at the foot of the bed. "You know," he said, "your mother and I always believed you and Michael had something real, something rare. I'm glad you're giving it another chance." Katie felt her eyes prick unexpectedly. "I am too." Tom squeezed her hand gently. "Life doesn't always give us second chances. When it does, we should look at them closely." Katie nodded, emotions swelling in her chest. "I know." Emily clapped her hands, suddenly breaking the moment. Okay, enough heartfelt stuff. We need breakfast and caffeine and possibly a parade. Tom chuckled. Let's start with pancakes. Emily pointed at Katie like a general. You, meet us downstairs. It's a celebration morning. Katie rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. All right, I'm coming. They left her room, voices drifting down the hallway. When the house quieted again, Katie looked back at the letter in her lap. She read the final line once more. If there's a world where you and I find our way back to each other, I hope we're brave enough to step into it. Katie closed her eyes, letting the truth settle inside her. She was ready. She felt it in her chest, warm and sheer. Today, she was going to find Michael and tell him exactly how she felt. Katie tugged her scarf tighter as she walked into the square, her breath curling into the cold morning air. Snow had fallen overnight, laying a soft white blanket over everything. The booths, the rooftops, the paths that crisscrossed Maplewood like a quilt. It was early, but volunteers were already bustling around, preparing for the evening's final celebration. Someone was testing the speaker system. Someone else was sweeping fresh snow from the walkways. The smell of pine and chimney smoke lingered in the air. Katie's heart thrummed with anticipation. Where is he? She expected to spot Michael immediately. This was his domain, the square, the setup, the morning rush. He was always here first. But as she scanned the area, no Michael. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear and tried not to feel disappointed. He had to be around here somewhere. Maybe he was behind the tree, or near the cocoa booth, or checking lights near the gazebo. A sharp crack of wood echoed from near the supply area. Katie turned toward the sound. There, between two stacks of lumber, stood a familiar figure. Broad-shouldered, jacket dusted in frost, hands steady as he adjusted a board on a sawhorse. Caleb. He didn't see her at first. His focus was locked on the wooden board he was planing. Slow, smooth strokes, purposeful and practiced. A small cloud of sawdust drifted around him like warm snow. For a second, Katie simply watched. He worked differently than Michael moved, quieter, grounded, entirely in the moment. Then Caleb looked up. His eyes widened with a flicker of pleasant surprise. Well, he said gently, good morning, Catherine. Her heart made a small, startled jump. Nobody called her that, except him. And he said it the same way he always had, carefully, respectfully, like the name mattered. Katie smiled, brushing off the tiny shiver the sound gave her. Morning, Caleb. You're up early. He wiped a streak of sawdust from his glove. Habit. Festival's got a few last-minute repairs. Figured I'd get a head start. She nodded. Have you seen Michael? I thought he'd be here by now. Caleb looked up, scanning for his brother. He was around, Caleb said, sliding another piece of wood toward him. Left a little while ago. Needed to help the mayor with something, I think. Oh. Katie tried to hide her disappointment. I guess I just missed him. Caleb gave a small nod, eyes warm but steady. Looks that way. A quiet pause settled between them. Not awkward, not heavy, just still. Katie stepped closer, eyeing the board he was smoothing. You're fixing the booths again. Trying to, he said. This one's warped a little from the cold. Nothing a little sanding can't fix. She ran a finger along the edge, perfectly smooth even, almost elegant. Wow, she murmured, you did all this? Caleb shrugged a little. Just keeping things sturdy. No one wants a booth collapsing on their cider. I'd hope not, she said, smiling. Caleb looked at her then. Really looked. Not in a lingering way. In a reading the weather kind of way. In a you seem lighter today kind of way. You look happy, he said quietly. Katie blinked. I do? He nodded. Yeah, happier than when you first came home. She felt her cheeks warm. I had a really great night last night. He gave a slow, almost imperceptible breath. Yeah, he said softly. I figured. Katie tucked her hands into her coat pockets, words spilling without thinking. Michael and we talked a lot, and it felt right, like picking up something we dropped but shouldn't have. Caleb's eyes flickered. Pain? Something else. But it was gone in a heartbeat. "That's good," he said, and he meant it. She could hear it. She felt a wave of gratitude. "Thanks. Really." He nodded once, then turned slightly toward the square. "If you're looking for him, maybe check the gazebo?" He said something yesterday about fixing the railing lights. Katie perked up. "Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Caleb." She started to step away, but he stopped her gently with his voice. "Catherine." She turned back. Caleb's gaze held hers, not intense, not pleading, just steady, earnest. "I'm glad you're here," he said quietly. "Maplewood feels a little more right with you in it." Katie's breath caught. It wasn't romantic, not obviously. It was just honest, and somehow deeply kind. "Thank you," she said softly. He dipped his head. "Anytime." As she walked away toward the gazebo, the snow crunching softly beneath her boots, something fluttered at the edges of her awareness. Light, fleeting, unnameable. But she brushed it off. Her heart was fixed firmly on Michael. Behind her, Caleb watched her go, chest rising in a slow, quiet breath before he turned back to the wood. The plane glided across the board again, smooth, careful, precise. The gazebo stood quiet in the early morning light, dusted with fresh snow, the wooden floorboards creaking softly under Katie's boots as she stepped inside. The rail lights were half coiled at her feet, their bulbs winking like sleepy stars. And there, standing near the back railing, adjusting a strand of twinkle lights, was Michael. He looked up the second she entered. "Katie." Her name slipped out in a breath, warm in the cold air. Something in her chest softened instantly. "You're up early," he said, smiling as he wiped snow from his gloves. "Could say the same for you," she teased. He shrugged lightly. "Big day. Last night of the festival. Wanted everything perfect." "You always do," she said softly. Michael paused at that, a flicker of emotion crossing his features. He stepped closer, the light catching in his hair, the cold on his breath mixing with hers. "I was hoping I'd see you this morning," he admitted. Katie smiled, heart beating faster. "I was looking for you everywhere." He let out a small, surprised breath, like those were the exact words he'd wished she'd say. "Yeah?" he asked, voice low. "Yeah," she said. "I couldn't stop thinking about last night." Michael's gaze softened completely. "Me neither." They stood facing each other in the quiet glow of the gazebo, their breaths fogging between them, the world hushed around them. Snow drifted lazily through the open sides, settling on the railing like sugar. Katie stepped closer. "Well, these last few days, I didn't expect any of this, but it feels right, being with you again. It feels like coming home." He exhaled slowly, stunned in the softest way. "I've wanted to hear that for a long time." The truth hung between them, warm, fragile, powerful. Katie swallowed. "I don't want to lose you again." That did it. Michael's face broke into the kind of smile that happens when something long hoped for finally arrives. He reached up, brushing a cold strand of hair from her cheek with unsteady fingers. "Then don't," he whispered. Her breath hitched, and then he leaned in, slowly, gently, questioning without words. Katie closed the last bit of distance. Their lips met in a soft, careful kiss. Not rushed, not uncertain, but full of years of stored-up feeling, a moment that felt like a beginning and a return all at once. Michael cupped her cheek, deepening the kiss just slightly, and Katie felt her heart swell so fully she wasn't sure there'd be room for anything else. When they finally pulled apart, her forehead rested against his, breaths mingling, snow settling silently around them. Michael whispered, "I never stopped caring about you." Katie's eyes stung. "I know." They stood like that, wrapped in a moment that felt suspended in time, until someone cleared their throat, quietly, respectfully, but unmistakably. Katie startled slightly and looked over Michael's shoulder. Caleb stood just inside the gazebo entrance, gloves in hand, expression calm. Too calm. Snow dotted the shoulders of his jacket. Cold air curled around him. "I'm sorry," he said, voice gentle, not intruding, not judging. "Didn't mean to interrupt, Michael asked me to bring the extra extension cords." He held them up lightly. Michael stepped back, clearing his throat, flustered, but trying not to show it. "Right. Thanks, man." Caleb nodded once, placing the cords near the railing. "Didn't want the lights shorting out tonight." His tone was warm, helpful, exactly as expected. Katie forced a breath, heat still blooming in her cheeks. "Morning, Caleb." Caleb met her eyes for only a heartbeat. Something flickered, tiny, unreadable, and then he offered a quiet, steady, "Good morning, Catherine." Her chest tightened unexpectedly. Before she could respond, Caleb stepped back out into the snow, giving them space without hesitation, his boots crunching softly as he walked away. Michael exhaled slowly. "Well, that was..." "Yeah." Katie blinked away the lingering surprise. "Yeah." But she wasn't thinking about the interruption, or embarrassment, or anything else. Her heart was still hanging on the kiss, on the warmth of it, the certainty. She looked at Michael. "I meant it," she said softly. "I don't want to lose you again." Michael's eyes softened. "You won't." Katie believed him, completely, utterly, for now. Katie stepped inside the house, brushing snow from her coat as warmth wrapped around her in a rush. Rosemary chicken, Maggie's cinnamon cider, and the quiet hum of Christmas music. "There she is!" Maggie called from the kitchen. "Sit down, sweetheart. Lunch is ready." Emily was already at the table picking at rolls, and Tom sat near the window in his favorite armchair, blanket over his knees, a soft pride glowing in his eyes. "Katie," Tom called gently, "come here a minute before we eat." She slipped into the living room. Tom lifted the wooden star from his lap. Now nearly finished. The rough edges she'd seen days ago were gone. The shape was true. The wood gleamed softly. Katie smiled, breath catching. "Dad, it's beautiful." Tom's grin deepened. "Caleb came by last night, helped me finish the tricky cuts. Tight angles on something like this, you need patience." Katie stepped closer, taking the star carefully into her hands. It was warm from Tom's touch. But the details, those were unmistakably someone else's. Tom pointed with a knuckle. "See the lines here? That's him. Said wood behaves better when you follow the grain instead of forcing it. And that little curve at the center, he added that. Thought it gave the star some movement." Katie traced the curve with her thumb. A shiver ran quietly up her arm. She knew this curve, this exact pressure, this confidence. Tom kept going, unaware of the shift in her breathing. "He's got good hands," Tom said. "Always did. His father taught him young. Caleb says a piece isn't done until the wood tells you it's done." Katie's throat tightened. She tilted the star, studying the angles. Steady, purposeful, gentle. She'd felt this before. Somewhere familiar, somewhere intimate, somewhere hers. Her wooden keepsake box. Her pulse fluttered. She didn't speak, didn't breathe, just looked. Tom chuckled softly. "You should have seen him correcting me. Said I was sanding too fast." Katie tried to smile, grounding herself. "This craftsmanship is incredible." "Caleb's steady," Tom said. "He pays attention. Nothing slips past him if he can help it." Katie's fingers tightened around the star, because the way the grain met at the center, the way the edges tapered, the small, elegant cuts near the base. She had traced these same shapes for years. She blinked hard, grounding herself, trying to steady her breath. Tom smiled softly, unaware of the quiet storm forming behind her eyes. "Funny thing about that craftsmanship," he said, nodding toward the star. "It's got the same touch as that little wooden box of yours." Katie's heart stuttered. She lifted her gaze slowly. "My box?" Tom said, reaching for his mug of cider. "The keepsake one, the cherry wood." Katie felt every muscle in her body tense, gently, invisibly. I never knew who made it, she said cautiously. It never had a signature. Tom chuckled. That's because of giving night. No one signs their gifts, remember? She swallowed. Right. But the box, Tom continued. Caleb made that. The words landed softly, tenderly, but Katie felt them like a bell ringing inside her chest. He did? She whispered. Tom nodded, completely at ease. Oh, yeah. He must have been, 14, 15? Their mother had just introduced giving night the winter before. Katie blinked. Their mother invented it. Maggie stepped in from the kitchen, wiping her hands. She sure did. Sweet woman. She believed gifts should come from the heart, not the store. So every December 1st, everyone crafted something. Wood, knitted things, painted ornaments, baked goods. Anonymous kindness. She placed a hand over her heart. Her idea made Christmas beautiful here. Tom continued, voice warm with memory. When she passed, we all thought the tradition would fade. It meant the world to her. He paused, sipping his cider. But Caleb took it on himself to keep it going every year. Katie's breath caught. He organized all of it, she asked softly. Oh, yeah, Tom said. He never made a fuss about it. He'd drop by houses with little carved ornaments for the kids, remind families of the date, help folks make their gifts if they didn't have the tools. He chuckled. One year he stayed up till 3 a.m, helping Mrs. Dunley finish a wooden nativity set. Poor woman kept gluing Joseph's head to the wrong place. Maggie laughed from the stove. Caleb's the reason giving night still feels like it did when she was alive. Katie sat perfectly still, the room buzzing faintly around her, her pulse a soft trembling under her ribs. And Michael? She asked carefully, trying to keep her tone light. Innocent. Tom shrugged. Michael helped here and there, but he's always had bigger ideas. Raffles, sponsorships, fireworks. You know how he is. He waved a hand. Nothing wrong with that. Just different. Maggie nodded. Caleb's heart was always in the quiet things. Michael's more of a big picture guy. Katie felt the stars weight in her hands again, and suddenly she saw it clearly. The connection she hadn't understood before, the box she'd treasured for years, the notes she kept inside it, the tenderness carved into every detail, the same touch, the same patience, the same heart. She swallowed, eyes lowering to the star. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I never knew. Tom smiled gently. Well, you weren't meant to. That's the beauty of giving night. You're not supposed to know who gave you what. You're just supposed to feel loved. Katie's chest tightened painfully, not in heartbreak, but in recognition. Something inside her cracked, quietly, softly, like the first hint of a truth she wasn't ready to hold. Maggie stepped forward and touched her shoulder. You okay, sweetheart? Katie nodded quickly. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just taking it in. Tom reached for the star, admiring it in the light. Well, we will put it on the tree tonight. That'll be something. Katie managed a small smile. Yeah, it will. But as she moved back toward the lunch table, her mind spun gently, painfully, beautifully. The box she loved came from Caleb's hands. The tradition she cherished was kept alive by Caleb's heart. And the star she held matched the quiet care she'd felt in every letter she ever read. Katie found Michael near the gazebo that afternoon, just where Caleb had said he'd be, stringing lanterns along the railing, humming absently to himself. The winter light caught in his hair, and for a moment her breath softened. She wanted this to be good. She wanted this to feel like home. Michael, she called gently. He turned immediately, breaking into that easy smile that always made her chest warm. Hey, I was just thinking about you. Katie stepped closer, tucking her hands into her coat pockets. Her heart beat unevenly, not from nerves, but from something deeper, something unsettled. Can we talk? She asked. Michael's smile faltered just a little. Yeah, sure. Everything okay? She nodded slowly. I think so. I just wanted to tell you something and ask you something. He leaned against the railing, eyebrows raised, trying to appear relaxed. Okay. Katie took a long breath. Start with the warmth. Earlier, she said softly, at my parents' house, Dad showed me the star he and Caleb have been making. Michael nodded. Yeah, it looks great. Caleb's been putting in a lot of hours on it. She hesitated. Did you know he helped make my keepsake box from Giving Night? Michael blinked, caught off guard. Oh, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think so. That was years ago. Katie stared at him. That didn't match everything she'd just learned. Michael, she said gently, my dad said Caleb carved it completely when he was 14. Michael rubbed the back of his neck, uncomfortable. Maybe. I don't know. He always made little things like that. Katie shifted her weight. Did you ever think I should know, she asked quietly, that he made something that meant so much to me? Michael looked slightly annoyed. Katie, it was anonymous. That's the whole point of the tradition. Right, she said. I know, but I guess I always thought, I don't know, that maybe someone would have mentioned it at some point. Michael shrugged. I didn't think it mattered who made it. Something inside Katie stung just a little. She tried again. And Giving Night, she said. Did you know your mom created it? Michael nodded. Yeah. But Caleb kept it going, she pressed. Dad said he's the one who organizes everything. Michael let out a breath, trying to look casual. Yeah, Caleb likes that stuff. Nostalgic, small-town traditions. I've always thought we could update it a little, modernize it. Katie winced before she could hide it. Michael caught the expression. Katie, come on, what's going on? She looked up at him, really looked, and took in the worry on his face, the confusion, the faint defensiveness. She said, voice low. I realized today how much of my childhood, the parts that felt safe and warm and meaningful, were shaped by traditions your mom created and kept alive by your brother. Michael's jaw tightened. Katie swallowed. And I don't think I ever knew that. He sighed, like he didn't understand why this mattered. Katie, you're reading way too much into this. Caleb likes doing the old-fashioned stuff. Good for him. But that's not me. It never has been. She stood frozen, quietly absorbing that. Michael rubbed his temple. Look, if this is about choosing between our styles... No, she whispered. It's not. It's just... Something shifted for me today. That's all. He stepped closer, softening. Katie. Last night, this morning, we were good. You said you didn't want to lose me again. I meant it, she said, but her mind was swirling. The star, the craftsmanship, the box, Giving Night, her childhood memories, the letters, her heart. Michael reached out and took her hands gently. Hey, whatever's bothering you, talk to me. Katie looked down at their joined hands. She loved what she thought they were, what she'd believed for years, what the letters had made her feel. But now she had to ask. Michael, her voice trembled, I want to talk about the letters. He stilled. Which letters? He asked, too quickly. My letters, she said softly. The ones you wrote me all those years ago. Michael's expression tightened. Barely. She saw it. She felt it. Katie's next breath shook. I want to hear you talk about them, she said gently. I want to understand what you felt when you wrote them, what they meant to you. He swallowed. Katie, that was a long time ago. I know, but I need you to tell me. He looked away, jaw flexing, searching for words. And that was when she felt it. The first real break in the story she believed. Michael finally met her eyes. Those letters, he said slowly, carefully, meant what they meant. You remember how you felt when you read them. That's what matters. But he didn't say. I wrote them. He didn't say. what they meant to him. He didn't say anything real. He said the only thing that didn't answer the question. Katie's heart squeezed painfully. "Michael," she whispered, "why won't you talk about them?" He opened his mouth, started to speak, then shut it again. A muscle in his cheek jumped. He forced a smile. "Katie, this is silly. You're getting emotional about old letters. Let's not ruin today over something that doesn't matter." It hit her like a cold wind. The letters didn't matter to him, not the way they mattered to her. Her hand slipped from his. He stepped forward. "Katie!" She shook her head gently, already backing away. "I think I need some air." "Katie, wait!" But she was already turning, walking into the falling snow, her breath hitching, her heart pounding, something inside her crumbling quietly. She didn't know the truth yet, but she knew one thing. Michael didn't write those letters. Not the way she thought, not the way she felt, not the way her heart remembered. Snow drifted down in slow, feathery flakes as Katie moved away from the gazebo, her boots crunching softly beneath her. The square had quieted for the afternoon, volunteers on break, music silenced for setup, leaving only the winter hush and the steady hum of her heartbeat in her ears. She didn't know how far she walked, just far enough to breathe, far enough to think, far enough for her heartbeat to calm from its trembling ache. Katie stopped near the giving tree, resting one gloved hand against the smooth railing as she drew a deep, steadying breath. She hadn't expected any of this. Not the warmth, not the kiss, and definitely not the confusion settling now in her chest. She closed her eyes. The letters, the box, the star, giving night, pieces of her childhood, her heart, her memories. And suddenly the edges didn't fit together the way she'd always believed. She pulled her phone from her pocket, opening the photo she'd snapped earlier. The star. Glowing in her hands, the curve of the wood catching the light, her thumb traced the image. That curve, the same curve carved into every corner of her keepsake box. She swallowed, thinking of the box sitting on her nightstand at home, the way her fingers had learned its edges by heart, the way she'd always felt its comfort, its warmth. She had never known why it felt so personal, until today. A cold breeze kissed her cheek and her breath shuddered out of her. Katie tucked her phone away and reached into her coat pocket, her fingers brushing the folded corner of an old letter she had taken with her. The one she reread last night. The one that always made her feel cherished. She pulled it out slowly and unfolded it with gentle hands. The ink was faded at the edges, paper soft from years of being touched. She read the lines she'd always loved. "Some people rush through life like wind, but you move like light, soft enough not to disturb anything, bright enough to change everything." Her throat tightened. This didn't sound like Michael. Not today. Not earlier, when he dismissed her questions. Not in the way he talked about tradition or gifts or anything with weight. This voice, this quiet, thoughtful, observant voice, felt like someone who saw her deeply, someone patient, steady, gentle, someone who wrote carefully, purposefully, the way Caleb carved wood. Katie pressed the letter to her chest, eyes closing. "No," she whispered to herself. "Don't jump. Don't assume." But the crack inside her widened, not painfully, but inevitably. Another thought crept in, something she had refused to consider before. What if the warmth in these letters never came from Michael in the first place? She inhaled sharply and pressed her back against the railing, trying to quiet her mind. Children's laughter echoed in the distance, a group playing near the sledding hill, and the town felt suddenly too big and too small at the same time. Katie blinked up at the falling snow. She felt shaken, untethered, but not broken, just turning towards something she couldn't yet see, or maybe towards something she had always felt, but never named. She folded the letter gently, reverently, and tucked it back into her coat. Then she whispered, barely audible, "I need to talk to him." But she didn't mean Michael. She just didn't know it yet. Thank you for listening to A Star for the Heart. As new truths emerge and old memories take on new meaning, Katie's journey in Maplewood is beginning to change in ways she never expected. Join us next time for our final episode, The Quiet Truth.